Welcome back to the Team to Beat Miami Heat podcast, your one-stop shop for daily Miami Heat content. My name is Amir. For this episode, we got some new news found it on Twitter, and Eddie Gonzalez was on a radio show on ESPN talking about Jimmy Butler to the Phoenix Suns. So Eddie is an NBA insider. I think he's also Kevin Durant's right-hand man, apparently. So he had some interesting things to say on the radio regarding Jimmy Butler to the Suns. So we all know that Jimmy Butler only wants to go to the Suns. He reiterated that, saying that that's the only team that Jimmy prefers to go to and will basically go to. And it's up to the Miami Heat to figure it out to see if they can find a third party to facilitate the Brad Beal trade, because the Miami Heat have clearly stated they don't want Bradley Beal for many reasons, mainly because of his contract. And so Eddie basically came out saying the Suns have found a third, a fourth, even a fifth team for the Miami Heat to acquire certain players, where Bradley Beal would go to one of those teams. Jimmy Butler obviously would go to the Suns. So he said there are multiple teams who are okay taking on Bradley Beal and his contract, which is interesting to me because it's such a bad contract. There are multiple teams that apparently Bradley Beal will waive his no trade clause for to go to facilitate this trade. So I guess there have been conversations. I think it was Mark Barrelstein, his agent, said that there hasn't been any conversations with Bradley about a trade, about dropping your no trade clause. This was last week. I did a video on that, but apparently, according to Eddie Gonzalez, he said that Beal would waive his no trade clause for a few teams, which is interesting to see. So how true is that? How valid is that? I'm not entirely sure. So I guess they're saying the ball has been in the Miami Heat's court. And he also said with those teams, they've found that the Utah Jazz have made offers, the Milwaukee Bucks have made offers, maybe the Chicago Bulls have made offers, and the Miami Heat have turned down all of these offers apparently. And I don't know why, but he said he speculated that the few players from these teams that probably were offered would include, like with Utah, John Collins, you got Sexton, and those are two players the Miami Heat have been linked to in the past, and apparently they said no. And that's kind of interesting to me because at this point, I don't know if we could redeem the Jimmy Butler relationship, but we'll see. But those are two solid players for the Bucks. Apparently Middleton, who just got benched, who's been washed and injured, his knee is cooked. He is coming back, I think, or he already is back. I don't know, but the offer would be Middleton and Bobby Portis for Jimmy. We've been linked to Bobby Portis, and he would be interesting next to Bam Adebayo. But Middleton is so cooked; he's so old, and I'd rather have Sexton and Collins over those two. The other option would be maybe Zach LaVine with the Chicago Bulls, which makes no sense because the Bulls have been trying to get rid of LaVine since the offseason and all season long. He has a horrible contract. He's playing good this season. He's playing better. He's healthier, but he is always injured too. And he has a bad contract moving forward. Not as bad as Bradley Beal's, but still not a great contract. And we already have Tyler Hero who's elevating. So it doesn't make sense for the Miami Heat to get another shooting guard type player next to him. So the Miami Heat have turned that down. So all of this is super interesting. And what does the Miami Heat want? I think I know what the Miami Heat want for Jimmy Butler. They want draft capital because we only have one or two picks in the next 7 years that are tradable. They want expiring contracts. They want win now players. I mean, Sexton and Collins are younger. I think they're both 26 years old or somewhere in that range. And they can help improve this roster. They could be those kind of win now players that get injected into the rotation with the Miami Heat's new youth movement around Bam, around Tyler, around Kalal, around Jaime, around Jovic. And adding those two would make sense. So I think they want mainly win now players, but they want expiring contracts. They don't want long-term bad contracts. And I don't know the details with all those guys' contracts that I've mentioned, but I know they want picks. I don't think they're getting picks. That's probably one reason why they're probably turning some of these down. And some of the contracts aren't that friendly for these win now players. So I'm assuming that's why the Miami Heat are turning them down. But I think it's really interesting that multiple teams are willing to take on Bradley Beal, and also Bradley Beal is willing to go to multiple teams, even if they're not contenders, because none of the teams I mentioned above are contenders. Maybe Milwaukee would be considered a contender, especially if you get Bradley Beal. That would be probably really interesting if they had Giannis, Bradley Beal, and Dame. But still, like Dame's getting older and Bradley Beal's always hurt. So who knows? But that's more shocking to me than Miami turning down trades at this point, because if they don't like what they're getting, basically they can have Jimmy Butler play out the rest of the year after his suspension and let him walk, apparently, because he doesn't want to pick up his $52 million player option. We get $52 million off the books. Then we can pick and choose the free agents that we want to sign onto this team with that cap space. So I think Miami is thinking that is the better path than what has been offered, which has been theoretically a John Collins and a Sexton and a Levine or whoever else, Bobby Portis and a Middleton. So anyway, interesting news. I'll keep you guys posted if I hear anything else regarding the Jimmy Butler trade. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel.